Good day, we are Group 5 and we will be presenting to you our research study assessing the vernacular houses in Batanes and its response to climate conditions. The Batanes group of islands, consisting of 10 small islands with a mix of terrestrial, wetland, and marine ecosystems, is one of the Philippines' last remaining regions with unique natural physiographic features due to its location. This situation resulted to the formation of Batanes vernacular houses, which heavily adjusted to the geographic and climatic difficulties existing in the area. The goals and objectives of this study is to assess the practicality of materials used, identify the functionality of the spaces within, recognize their attributes, and identify further more effective solutions the Batanes vernacular houses presented. This study will benefit the society in general to understand climatic responses of architecture through residential designs. Furthermore, this will also help people to know more about the situation in Batanes and how this is reflected in their very own vernacular residential structures.
Presentation of data. Ibatan dwellings are typically built with cobbles and mortar, have solid walls composed of limestone, and have thatched common roofs. Their walls range in thickness from 80 meters to a meter. While roofs are built of thatched cogon, the doors and windows are made of solid hardwood boards. Ibatan homes can be divided into two categories: the folk architecture and the ethnic architecture. Native people self-built constructions are referred to as ethnic architecture. These are structures developed by routine behaviors that subsequently develop into traditions because of numerous difficulties like calamities or the climate within the area. These are constructed from raw elements including wood, stone, plants, and occasionally mud. Ethnic homes are typically relatively small and serve primarily as a place to sleep, cook, eat, and provide protection from the weather. On the other hand, folk architecture demonstrates the impacts of time and outside influences as well as how local people adapted them. Ibatan house morphology. The Ibatan Heritage House is made up of more than one structure, which are the main house and the kitchen, and sometimes a third building which acts as a shed or storage space exists. Ibatan Heritage Homes can be referred as the limestone, wood and thatch structures, and the wood and thatch structures. WT structures are buildings made of thatch, reeds, and wood planks, or wood studs, or a mix of these materials. Only available in one-story buildings and mostly serve as a cooking or storage space. However, this may also be used as temporary homes during harvest season or during agricultural activities in coastal villages. The limestone with wood and thatch structures are buildings made of stones that range in from boulders to gravel. This permits a two-story buildings and has a bigger floor area. The lowest level is for food storage and refuge for animals during rainy season. The upper level serves as the primary living space, while the lower level is utilized for storing agricultural products during summer. Here are the structures under the two classifications of Ibatan homes. For the WT structures, the first one is the Legatiti shelter. It is a makeshift type of shelter resembling an ethnic lean-to, commonly used as a temporary shed in farmland. The next one is Rahaung, a basic shelter consisting of a two-slope A-frame resting on the ground. Timber logs were used as posts to elevate the A-frame, and thus emerged the Rahaung shelter. Roof construction is like the Legatiti. It may have no walls, but sometimes have wall-like barriers made of thatch that cover only the area from the level of the eaves to the top of the triangular frame. They provide shelter from rain and sun, which would otherwise penetrate if these areas were left bare. And this house type is used as multi-purpose shelter to houseboats or as a shed for food. Next one is the Maihurahed. It is built at ground level. The damp earth causes problems at the portions close to the ground, so it actually made the cogon and wood rot faster. That's why a low base consisting of mud and stone is made in the lower section of the wall, which is also called hurahed. Maihurahed means with stone base. The base serves more important function during rains as it helps the water flow from the higher area and divert it around the house. Next are the structure of LSWT. The first one is the Sinadumparan house that has walls made of stones and lime mortar. It still follows the basic form and roof constructions of the WT houses, but the use of masonry allowed it to go wider and higher. This may vary in size and height depending on its use. The next one is the Gaterio. It was a product of the Spanish regime to introduce clay tiles as a substitute for cogon grass. Only one of these structures was ever built, and it is in the island of Batan and was originally used as a nuns convent. To date, it is used as a storage area for the church. And lastly, may tuab. It evolved from the Sinadumparan as a result of a disastrous earthquake of 1918 wherein the weak triangular portion of the walls collapsed for some houses, and instead of rebuilding it, they introduced the four-slope roof.
Analysis of architectural design concepts in response to climate conditions. The historic houses of Batanes were built to endure the severe and unpredictable climate of the northern islands of the Philippines. There are no other low dwellings in the Philippines like those in Batanes. The vernacular stone houses of Batanes are well suited to withstand the typhoons and strong winds that frequently devastate the islands. They are cool in the summer and warm in the winter due to the materials used and the thick walls, approximately a meter. Additionally, they do not crumble during earthquakes. They are examples of vernacular architecture made of limestone, wood, and thatch. As for the present day, limestone is considered as one of the most durable options of all building materials. It has few pores and is dense and strong. Less pores increase the stone's resistance to breaking and increase its ability to endure abrasion and freeze-thaw cycles. No matter the climate, it is the ideal choice because it is weather resistant. In addition, cogon has its own quirks while being known as an invasive plant and a highly flammable material. Cogon is perfect for homes on islands and in coastal areas like Batanes. Aside from making summers less humid and warm, cogon also lasts 3 times longer, 8 to 10 years if put together properly. Slowly, modernity is making its way to the island of Batanes. Traditional values continue to guide the construction of homes, the cultivation of crops, and the preparation of food. It's all gained wisdom to withstand the elements. The Ivatan built their houses with thick limestone walls that have been weathered and burnt by the sun, and with heavy cogon grass roofs that can be effectively fastened down in strong winds. Since the kitchen is located in a separate structure from the main part of the house, food and cattle can be kept there safely. Ivatans feel safer and more secure living in the traditional house. Residents who first want to build a more modern house will subsequently be persuaded to continue with the traditional approach.
Findings and conclusions. Batanes has a varied climate and geography compared to the other provinces in the Philippines. It's somewhat windy and cool outside. Typhoon, wind, and rain hit the province non-stop, while it almost constantly rains from a minimum of 8 days a month to a 21 days a month. There is no clearly defined wet or dry season. The architecture and social institution of Batanes residents have all been adapted to the harsh and shifting weather. The study attributes most archetypes under the classification EAWT can partially support heavy rains and winds. There are a lot of improvements from Lagatiti to May Hurahed in terms of its users' comfortability and the functional response to tropical climate. It also proves that ethnic architecture naturally advances itself without the reference of foreign knowledge. But also, data demonstrated that the archetypes under the F8LSWT exponentially develop Batanes houses functionality to tropical climate but also to its spaces and appearance. They also used limestone, wood, and thatch materials for this Batanes house archetypes, which are better materials against the tropical climate in the Batanes than using only the wood thatch. Overall, the adaptation to the environment, which includes the topography, typhoons, and earthquakes, also the availability of the materials, some of the factors that have contributed to this transformation. That's the end of the discussion. Thank you.